I was in the middle of stirring marinara sauce in the narrow kitchen of the old Victorian house when Mr. Robert Hayes filled the doorway. Arms crossed, eyes narrowed like he'd already decided I was guilty of something. The spoon froze mid-turn, red sauce dripped onto the tile floor in slow, accusing drops. "I know you've been trying to flirt with my daughter." His voice was low, matter-of-fact, the kind that didn't need volume to land hard. Behind him, Emily leaned against the wall, one eyebrow arched, lips curved in faint, dangerous amusement. "Really," she said, tone light but edged. "You've been hitting on me." The kitchen went dead quiet except for the soft bubble of the sauce and rain, tapping the window like impatient fingers. I looked between them. Father, stern, daughter 35 with hazel eyes that were equal parts curious and daring. Then I shrugged because lying would have been worse. Maybe. Emily let out a short surprised laugh that cracked the tension like glass. Mr. Hayes didn't laugh. He took one step closer. "You're 21. My daughter is 35. I don't see how this plan of yours is going to work." I set the spoon down carefully, wiped my hands on the dish towel, and met Emily's gaze. A small spark flickered in her eyes. Not anger, but interest. Like she was waiting to see what I'd do next. "Then I'll just have to come up with a better plan," I said. Emily pressed her lips together, fighting a smile. Mr. Hayes exhaled heavily through his nose, turned and walked away without another word. Emily lingered a second longer, eyes locked on mine. "You're either very brave or very stupid," she whispered. Then she followed her father down the hall. I stood alone with the simmering pot heart hammering so loud I could feel it in my ears. "My name is Daniel Carter, by the way. 21, college dropout turned freelance coder, turned accidental tenant in this old house on the edge of Capitol Hill. I'd moved in 6 months earlier because the rent was cheap and the Wi-Fi was decent. I hadn't expected Emily Hayes, 35, freelance graphic designer, single sharp as a blade, to be living upstairs with her father. But she was. And I'd been noticing her for weeks. The way she laughed at her own jokes during Zoom calls. The way she always left the coffee maker on for the next person. The way she'd pause on the stairs, sometimes looking down at me, fixing something in the hallway like she was trying to figure out what I was really doing here. I hadn't planned to flirt. It just happened. A good morning that lingered too long. A joke about her terrible taste in playlists. Offering to carry her groceries up the 3 flights of stairs when her arms were full. Small things. Harmless things. Until her father noticed. And now the plan, because apparently I had one, was out in the open. I turned off the stove, dumped the half-cooked sauce down the drain, and sat at the kitchen table with my head in my hands. What the hell was I doing? She was 14 years older. She'd been married once, divorced 2 years ago, according to neighborhood gossip. She had a real career, real responsibilities, real life. I was a 21-year-old kid who still ate ramen 3 nights a week and whose biggest achievement was fixing someone else's Wi-Fi. But the way she looked at me tonight, half amused, half intrigued, had lit something inside me I didn't want to put out. So I made a decision. If I was going to do this, and apparently I wasn't going to do it half-assed. The next morning I started what I mentally called the plan. Step 1, become useful. Emily worked from home most days, endless Zoom calls, Photoshop open on 2 screens, coffee running through her veins. The house was old, things broke constantly. I started fixing them. First, the coffee maker that sputtered and died every 3rd cup. I took it apart on the kitchen counter while she watched from the doorway, arms folded. "What are you doing?" she asked. "It's clogged." "I can fix it. I can call a repair guy. I'm cheaper." She laughed soft, surprised. "You're awfully confident for someone who almost burned the kitchen down last week trying to make toast." I looked up, met her eyes. Confidence is part of the plan? She tilted her head. So you really are trying to flirt with me? Yeah. You don't think it's weird? I think it's interesting. She shook her head, but there was no real objection in it. She just watched me work for a minute longer, then went back upstairs without another word. After that, she started leaving small things for me to fix without asking. Burned out hallway bulb, loose doorknob on the guest room, the creaky third stair that drove her crazy during late night calls. Each time I finished, she'd offer a quiet thanks or a half smile, but her gaze lingered longer, like she was weighing how far I'd go. I didn't rush. I just kept showing up, toolbox ready, waiting for the next move, and I knew she was watching. Curious. The first real test came 2 weeks later. I decided to cook dinner: steak, garlic butter pasta, a bottle of decent red I'd saved up for. Candles on the table, cheesy, but I figured if I was going all in, might as well commit. Emily walked in from her office just as the pan flared up, high heat on the oil. Flames licked the range hood. "I think your kitchen is on fire," she said calmly, leaning in the doorway. Panic hit. I grabbed a glass of water and threw it on the pan. The flames roared higher, black smoke billowing. Emily didn't move, just watched, corner of her mouth twitching. I've never seen anyone try to seduce a woman by setting the kitchen on fire. We ended up calling the fire department. 2 guys in heavy gear showed up, killed the flames with an extinguisher, lectured me about grease fires, then left, shaking their heads. The kitchen smelled like burnt oil and chemicals for days. Emily stood in the doorway afterward, arms crossed, still smiling. "You know what's the funniest part?" she said. "What you didn't run?" I shrugged, wiping soot from my face with a towel. "I'm not running from the plan." She looked at me, really looked, and something in her eyes shifted. Softer, less guarded. But the biggest unplanned moment came a week later. My phone rang at 4:17 p.m. "Daniel, I'm stuck in the elevator." Her voice was steady, but I caught the faint tremor underneath. She hated confined spaces. She'd mentioned it once in passing. "You called maintenance?" "Yeah." "They said 30 minutes. I didn't think." Grabbed keys, drove across town in 20 minutes. Flat parked crooked, ran up 5 flights of stairs. Sat on the floor outside the elevator doors and talked to her through the crackdom college stories, stupid coding bugs, anything to keep her breathing even. 32 minutes later, the doors opened. She stepped out, face pale, eyes finding mine instantly. "You drove 20 minutes just to sit on the floor and talk to me through a door." I stood, brushed dust off my jeans. That part wasn't in the plan. She laughed, shaky, then reached out and touched my forearm, fingers lingering a beat longer than necessary. "Thank you," she whispered. That single touch felt bigger than any fixed appliance or failed dinner. One rainy Thursday night in late fall, the power flickered twice, then died completely. No storm, just Seattle being Seattle. Emily and I ended up in the kitchen by candlelight, no agenda, no tools, no strategy, just instant coffee and real conversation. She talked about her marriage that ended 2 years earlier. Voice even like she'd told the story enough times to dull the edges. He always said I was too strong, too independent. Said men don't like women like that. I set my mug down. "I like it." She looked at me across the flame shadows moving on her face. "You're saying that because you're young." "I'm saying it because I'm not scared of strong women." She went quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee like it held answers. Then, almost too soft to hear, "You know what confuses me most? What I'm starting to like you back." The words landed heavy between us. I didn't joke, didn't push, just nodded once. "Good." She exhaled a small laugh, but her eyes stayed serious. After that night, everything changed. No more talk of the plan. We simply spent more time together, shared meals without pretense, watched old movies on her laptop when the Wi-Fi cooperated, walked the block in the drizzle with her dog shoulders brushing on purpose. The 14-year gap still existed, but it stopped feeling like a barrier and started feeling like something we could navigate if we chose to. A month later, my startup landed seed funding small, but enough to move to Austin for the accelerator program. I had 2 weeks left in Seattle. The final night I was packing boxes in my room when Emily knocked softly on the open door. She leaned against the frame, arms folded expression unreadable. "I think your plan failed," she said. I laughed once, taping a box shut. "Guess so?" She stepped inside, closed the door behind her. "You know why it failed?" I looked up. "Why?" "Because I started liking you first." She crossed the room in 3 steps, stopped close enough that I could smell her citrus shampoo. "And that wasn't part of your plan." I set the tape down, stood slowly. "Emily, what are we doing?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. She smiled, small reel, a little sad. "Not planning." Then she rose on her toes and kissed me soft at first, then deeper, hands sliding to my shoulders like she'd been waiting for permission. When she pulled back just enough to breathe, forehead resting against mine, "Just starting." I kissed her again, slower this time. No hurry, no strategy. The boxes, the move, the distance, none of it mattered right then. The plan had failed spectacularly, and neither of us cared. The morning after that kitchen confrontation, I woke up with the taste of last night's unfinished marinara still in my mouth and a decision already made. If I was going to do this, and apparently I wasn't going to half-ass it. Emily worked from home most days. Freelance graphic design meant endless screen time, Zoom calls, coffee in one hand and stylus in the other. The house was old, built in the 1920s, creaky floors, temperamental plumbing appliances that remembered the Nixon administration. Things broke constantly. I decided to start there. Step 1. Become useful. I began with the coffee maker. It had been sputtering for weeks, dying mid-brew every third cup. I took it apart on the kitchen counter the next morning while she was still upstairs on a call. By the time her meeting ended and she came down barefoot in yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, I had the grinder assembly spread out like surgery. She stopped in the doorway, mug already in hand. "What are you doing?" "It's clogged." "I can fix it." "I was going to call a repair guy. I'm cheaper." She leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching me work. A small laugh escaped her, soft, surprised. "You're awfully confident for someone who almost set the kitchen on fire last week trying to make toast." I looked up, met her eyes. "Confidence is part of the plan." She tilted her head. "So you really are trying to flirt with me?" "Yeah." "You don't think it's weird? I think it's interesting." She shook her head, but there was no real objection in it. She watched me finish reassembling the machine, test it, and pour her a fresh cup. When I handed it to her, our fingers brushed just barely. She didn't pull away immediately. "Thanks," she said quietly. After that, she started leaving small things for me to fix without asking. A burned-out hallway bulb. A loose doorknob on the guest room. The creaky third stair that drove her crazy during late-night client calls. Each time I finished, she'd offer a quiet thanks or a half smile, but her gaze lingered longer, like she was weighing how far I'd go. I didn't rush. I just kept showing up, toolbox ready, waiting for the next move, and I knew she was watching. Curious. 2 weeks later, I decided to escalate. I cooked dinner on a Friday night, steak, garlic butter pasta, a bottle of decent red I'd saved up for. Candles on the table, cheesy, but I figured if I was going all in, might as well commit. The kitchen smelled like garlic and rosemary. I had everything timed. Emily walked in from her office just as the pan flared up, high heat on the oil. Flames licked the range hood. "I think your kitchen is on fire," she said calmly, leaning in the doorway. Panic hit. I grabbed a glass of water and threw it on the pan. The flames roared higher, black smoke billowing. Emily didn't move, just watched corner of her mouth twitching. I've never seen anyone try to seduce a woman by setting the kitchen on fire. We ended up calling the fire department. Two guys in heavy gear showed up, killed the flames with an extinguisher, lectured me about grease fires, then left shaking their heads. The kitchen reeked of charred oil and chemicals for days. Emily stood in the doorway afterward, arms crossed, still smiling. "You know what's the funniest part?" she said. "What, you didn't run?" I shrugged, wiping soot from my face with a towel. "I'm not running from the plan." She looked at me, really looked. And something in her eyes shifted. Softer, less guarded. But the biggest unplanned moment came a week later. My phone rang at 4:17 p.m. "Daniel, I'm stuck in the elevator." Her voice was steady, but I caught the faint tremor underneath. She hated confined spaces. She'd mentioned it once in passing. "You called maintenance?" "Yeah." "They said 30 minutes. I didn't think." "Grabbed keys, drove across town in 20 minutes?" "Flat, parked crooked, ran up 5 flights of stairs, sat on the floor outside the elevator doors and talked to her through the crack. Dumb college stories, stupid coding bugs, anything to keep her breathing even." 32 minutes later, the doors opened. She stepped out, face pale, eyes finding mine instantly. "You drove 20 minutes just to sit on the floor and talk to me through a door?" I stood, brushed dust off my jeans. "That part wasn't in the plan." She laughed shaky, then reached out and touched my forearm fingers, lingering a beat longer than necessary. "Thank you," she whispered. That single touch felt bigger than any fixed appliance or failed dinner. I didn't push after that. I just kept being there, fixing things, bringing her coffee when her meetings ran long, leaving notes on the fridge, Wi-Fi extender installed. "Signal should reach your office now." She started responding. "A post-it on my laptop one morning. Thanks for the stair fix. I can finally sneak down for midnight snacks without waking Dad." A shared playlist appeared on Spotify, her taste in indie rock mixed with my old punk tracks. We didn't talk about it, we just listened. Then came the rainy Thursday night in late fall. Power flickered twice, then died completely. No storm, just Seattle, being Seattle. We ended up in the kitchen by candlelight, no agenda, no tools, no strategy, just instant coffee and real conversation. She talked about her marriage that ended 2 years earlier, voice even like she'd told the story enough times to dull the edges. He always said I was too strong, too independent. Said men don't like women like that. I set my mug down. "I like it." She looked at me across the flame shadows moving on her face. "You're saying that because you're young." "I'm saying it because I'm not scared of strong women." She went quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee like it held answers, then almost too soft to hear. "You know what confuses me most? What I'm starting to like you back." The words landed heavy between us. I didn't joke, didn't push, just nodded once. "Good." She exhaled a small laugh, but her eyes stayed serious. After that night, everything changed. No more talk of the plan. We simply spent more time together, shared meals without pretense, watched old movies on her laptop when the Wi-Fi cooperated, walked the block in the drizzle with her dog shoulders brushing on purpose. The 14-year gap still existed, but it stopped feeling like a barrier and started feeling like something we could navigate if we chose to. One evening after a long day of her client revisions and my debugging marathon, she found me in the garage fixing the door opener for the 3rd time that month. She leaned against the workbench, arms folded. "You know Dad still glares at you every time he sees you." I wiped grease off my hands. "He hasn't said anything since that night. He won't. He's waiting for you to screw up." I looked at her. Am I screwing up? She stepped closer. Not yet. Then she reached up, brushed a streak of grease from my cheek with her thumb. My breath caught. She didn't pull away immediately. Neither did I. Emily. She smiled small real. Shut up, Daniel. And she kissed me. Soft at first. Tentative. Like she was testing if the world would end. It didn't. I kissed her back slow, careful, like I was afraid she'd vanish if I moved too fast. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. This is insane, she whispered. Yeah, but I don't want to stop. Me neither. She laughed quiet, breathless. We're going to give my dad a heart attack. Let him survive it. She kissed me again deeper this time. And just like that, the plan was over. Because whatever this was, it wasn't a plan anymore. It was real. The first few weeks after that kiss felt like walking on glass, beautiful, fragile, and one wrong step away from shattering. We didn't announce anything. There was nothing to announce. We just continued. Mornings started with me making coffee while she scrolled emails at the kitchen table. Evenings ended with her falling asleep on the couch during a movie. Head on my shoulder, my arm around her like it had always belonged there. Small things. Quiet things. The kind of routine that sneaks up on you and suddenly feels like home. But her father noticed. Mr. Hayes had always been a quiet man, retired engineer, read the paper every morning with black coffee, spoke only when necessary. After the kitchen confrontation, he'd kept his distance, glared when he passed me in the hallway, grunted acknowledgments, nothing more. Until one Tuesday evening. I was in the garage fixing the door opener again, third time that month, when he appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable. She's smiling more lately, he said. No greeting, no preamble. I wiped grease from my hands. Yeah. He didn't move. Just watched me. You know she's been through hell. Divorce wasn't clean. Left her doubting herself for a long time. I nodded once. I know. He exhaled slowly. She's 35, you're 21. People will talk. They'll say she's taking advantage. They'll say you're too young to know what you're doing. I know what people will say. He stepped closer, and if they're right, I met his eyes. Then I'll prove them wrong. He studied me for a long moment. Then something shifted, small, almost imperceptible. Not approval. Not yet. But the glare softened. I don't like this, he said quietly. Not one bit. But I've watched her shut down for 2 years. And now, she's humming in the kitchen again, laughing at stupid memes on her phone, looking forward to coming downstairs. He paused. If you hurt her, Daniel, if you make her question herself one more time, I will make sure you regret it. Age difference be damned. I held his gaze. I won't hurt her. He nodded once, short, sharp. We'll see. Then he turned and walked back inside. That was the closest thing to permission we ever got. But the real hesitation came later. A month after the kiss, Emily started getting strange calls, unknown numbers, hang-ups, voicemails with nothing but breathing. At first we thought it was spam. Then one night she played one for me. Static. Then a man's voice, low, distorted. Tell your little boyfriend to back off. He's playing in the wrong league. Click. Emily's face went pale. It's probably nothing, she said quickly, too quickly. I took the phone, played it again. Not nothing. I ran a trace through a contact I knew from freelance work. Old college friend who worked cybersecurity now. Results came back the next day. Burner phone, purchased cash in Tacoma, no name, no address. But the area code matched a neighborhood where her ex-husband still lived. She confirmed it when I showed her. Mark, she whispered. He never really let go. After the divorce, he kept showing up at my old apartment, calling, texting. I changed my number 3 times. Thought he finally stopped. I didn't say anything at first, just pulled her close. "We'll handle it," I said. She looked up at me. "How?" "First we tell your dad." She hesitated. "He'll freak out. He needs to know." We told him that evening. Sat him down in the living room. Played the voicemail. Watched his face go from confusion to fury in seconds. "He's threatening her?" Mr. Hayes' voice was dangerously quiet. "Looks like it," I said. He stood up, paced once, twice, then stopped in front of me. "You're involved with her. You're in this now." "I know." He looked at Emily. "You want him to handle this?" She nodded. "I trust him." Mr. Hayes exhaled heavily. "I don't like relying on a 21-year-old kid. But I'm not stupid. I'm not young enough to chase him down myself anymore." He turned back to me. "You keep her safe, whatever it takes." "And if he shows up here, I'll handle it," I said. He studied me again longer this time. Then he nodded once. "Fine, but if you can't protect her, I will." That night after her father went to bed, Emily curled against me on the couch. "He's never liked anyone I dated," she whispered. "Not even Mark at first. But tonight, Iman, he looked at you like he might actually believe you could do this." I kissed her forehead. "I will." She looked up at me. "You don't have to fight my battles." "I want to." She smiled small, tired, real. "Then we do it together." The next morning I started making calls, old contacts from college, a private investigator friend, a favor from a cop I'd helped with tech once. We tracked Mark's movements. He was still in Tacoma, still drinking, still blaming her for everything. But he hadn't crossed the line into physical threat. Yet. I installed cameras around the house, motion sensors on doors, a panic button app on her phone that pinged straight to mine. Emily watched me do it all without complaint. One evening while I was wiring the last sensor, she came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. "You're really doing this?" she said softly. "Yeah." She rested her chin on my shoulder. "Dad told me something today." I paused. What he said, "If that kid can keep her safe, maybe he's not as stupid as he looks." I laughed quietly. High praise. She turned me around, looked up at me. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not running from this." I cupped her face. "I'm not going anywhere." She kissed me slow. Certain. And for the first time, the 14-year gap didn't feel like a problem. It felt like a strength, because she had lived enough to know what she wanted, and I was young enough to fight for it. Part 4. The Crossroads. The calls stopped after that. Mark vanished from the radar burner, phones disconnected, social media silent, no more late-night hang-ups. The private investigator I hired confirmed he'd moved out of Tacoma, new address in Portland, new girlfriend, new life. Or at least the appearance of one. Emily exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 2 years. "He's gone," she said one night, curled against me on the couch. For real this time. I kissed her temple. Good. But her father's words still echoed. Mr. Hayes had watched us closely after the voicemail incident. Not glaring anymore, just observing. Quiet. Calculating. He started joining us for dinner some evenings. Not every night. Just enough to make his presence felt. One Sunday, he cooked roast chicken, mashed potatoes, the kind of meal that filled the whole house with warmth. Emily and I set the table. He watched us move around each other like we'd been doing it for years. Halfway through dinner, he set his fork down. "You're serious about this," he said. "Not a question." I met his eyes. "Yes." He looked at Emily. "And you?" She reached under the table, squeezed my hand. "Yes." He exhaled slowly. "I spent 2 years watching you rebuild yourself after Mark. You stopped smiling, stopped humming, stopped looking forward to anything. And now," he trailed off, looked at me again. "I still don't like the age difference. People will talk. They'll assume things. They'll judge her, judge you. And I won't be around forever to shield her from that." I know I said. But I also see her smile again. Real smiles. Not the polite ones she used to give. "And I see you fixing things without being asked, showing up when she's scared, not running when it gets hard." He paused. "I don't trust easily. But I trust what I see." Emily's eyes shimmered. "Dad?" He held up a hand. "I'm not giving my blessing. Not yet. But I'm not standing in your way anymore. If you hurt her," he looked straight at me, "I will make sure you regret it. Age be damned." I nodded once, understood. He picked up his fork again. Passed the potatoes. That was it. No grand speech. No tears. Just a quiet shift. After dinner, he went to his study. Emily and I cleaned up in silence for a minute. Then she turned to me, eyes bright. "He's never said anything like that to anyone I dated, not even Mark." I pulled her close. "I'm not Mark." She laughed softly against my chest. "No, you're not." The next week felt lighter. We started planning small things, weekend trips, new playlists, even talking about Austin. My startup accelerator was only a few months away. We both knew distance was coming. But neither of us panicked. Instead, we made rules. Every night, no matter what video call, no skipped days, weekly visits. I'd fly back every other weekend if I could. She'd come to Texas when her schedule allowed, and if it got too hard, we'd talk. No ghosting, no assumptions. One evening she found me in the garage again, fixing the damn door opener for the 4th time. She leaned against the workbench watching me. "You don't have to keep fixing everything you know." I wiped my hands. "Habit." She stepped closer. "You're not just fixing the house anymore." I looked at her. "What am I fixing me?" she said quietly. "Or maybe us." I set the screwdriver down, pulled her into my arms. "You weren't broken. You were just waiting." She rested her forehead against mine. "And you—" "I was sleepwalking," I said, "until you walked into the kitchen that night." She smiled small real. "Worst wrong turn of my life. Best mistake of mine." She kissed me slow, certain. When we pulled back, she whispered, "Austin's far. I know. You sure you want this long distance? Me waiting here. You building something new there." I cupped her face. "I want you. However it comes." She searched my eyes. "Then we do it right. No half measures." "No half measures," I agreed. That night we lay in bed, her head on my chest, fingers tracing the scar on my ribs. "Dad asked me something today," she said softly. "What he asked, if I was sure about you. About us. And I told him I've never been more sure of anything." I kissed the top of her head. "Good answer." She lifted her head. "What about you?" Are you sure I looked down at her, really looked? The woman who'd laughed at my failed dinner, trusted me when she was trapped in an elevator, fought back when her ex threatened her, and still chose me despite every reason not to. I've never been more sure, I said. She smiled bright, unguarded. Then she kissed me again. And in that moment, with rain tapping the window and her heartbeat steady against mine, I knew one thing for certain. The plan was dead. What we had now was better, real, and worth every risk. Part 5. The Open Door. The morning I left for Austin was gray and ordinary the way Seattle mornings often are. Rain tapping the roof like impatient fingers. Coffee brewing in the kitchen. Emily standing by the front door in an old hoodie of mine that swallowed her frame arms wrapped around herself. I had one suitcase and a backpack. Everything else was already shipped. The accelerator program started in 2 days. I'd be gone for at least 6 months, maybe longer if things took off. She didn't cry. She just looked at me with those hazel eyes that had seen me through every stupid mistake and every quiet win. "You sure you packed your charger?" she asked. I smiled. "Third time you've asked." "Fourth," she corrected. "I'm thorough." I set the suitcase down and pulled her close. She fit against me perfectly like she always had. "Video call every night," I said. "No skipped days." "No skipped days," she echoed. "Every other weekend I fly back. Or you come down." She nodded against my chest. "And if it gets too hard, we talk. No assumptions, no ghosting." She pulled back just enough to look up at me. "Promise, promise." She kissed me slow, certain tasting faintly of coffee and the mint she'd chewed to hide her nerves. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "I love you, Daniel." The words landed soft but heavy. We'd never said them before, not out loud. I cupped her face. "I love you too." She smiled, small rill the kind that still caught me off guard after all these months. "Go build something amazing," she whispered, "and come back to me." "I will." I kissed her one more time, quick this time, because if I lingered, I wouldn't leave. Then I picked up the suitcase and walked out. The drive to the airport was quiet, rain on the windshield, Seattle shrinking in the rearview mirror. I didn't look back. 6 months turned into 9. The accelerator went better than expected. We raised a seed round. Hired 2 people. Moved into a real office instead of a co-working space. I flew back every other weekend like I promised. She came to Austin twice, once for a long weekend, once for a conference. We made it work. But the past has a way of not staying buried. One Tuesday night in early spring, 9 months after I left, I was on a late call with investors when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Seattle area code. I stepped out of the conference room to answer. A man's voice, low, familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. "Daniel Carter." "Who is this, Mark?" "Emily's ex." Silence stretched. "She didn't tell you everything, did she?" I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you want?" "I want to talk. Face to face. There are things she never told you. Things she's still running from." I didn't answer immediately. "She thinks I'm gone," he continued. "I'm not. Not really. I've been watching. Waiting. And I know about you. About Austin. About how happy she pretends to be." My jaw clenched. "If you come near her, I'm not coming near her," he said. "Not yet. I just want to talk to you. Man to man, before you decide she's worth the rest of your life." He gave me a time, a place, a coffee shop in Capitol Hill, next time I was back in Seattle. I hung up. That night I called Emily, told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. "I thought he was gone," she whispered. I thought we were safe." "We are," I said. "But we need to finish this, whatever this is." She exhaled shakily. I never told you the whole story. About Mark, about why the divorce was so ugly, about the things he threatened when I left. I waited. He said if I ever moved on, if I ever let someone else in, he'd make sure I regretted it. Not physically. Worse, reputation, career, family. I closed my eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. Because I didn't want to drag you into my mess. You're not dragging me. I'm already here. She laughed, small, broken. You're too good at this. I love you, I said. That means all of it, the good parts and the parts you're scared to show. Silence again. Then, come home next weekend. We'll face him together. I will. When I hung up, I stared at the ceiling of my Austin apartment for a long time. The past wasn't done with us. Not yet. But neither was the future. And whatever Mark thought he could do, he didn't know one thing: Emily wasn't running anymore, and I wasn't sleepwalking. We were wide awake, together, and we weren't going to let anyone take that away.